Coach, you're here today to talk about Team Playbooks at teamplaybooks.com. And, of course, you are involved in that along with Tom Flores and Jim Everett. Jim Everett, of course, is the former Ram quarterback and another prolific he was the most prolific passer in LA Rams history. And we all know about Tom Flores' resume with the Raiders. He's won Super Bowls and so forth and so on. So you're with a good group of guys. Now, what you have coming out this week through Apple is the John Robinson Power Running Game app. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this application has basically all the plays that you used to run maybe at USC with the Rams. You have power running game, the gap up there, and it's every position is explained. This must have taken some time to draw up, or is this just something you did on a piece of paper? Oh, this is the play here. And
oh no, we worked at it, and I think it's a marvelous invention in terms of what a young coach or any coach who is in the off season. You know, all the time I was coaching, I would drive to coaches conventions or coaches clinics in the off season. This can really replace that, because if you're interested in our type of football, or really we have a lot of other styles too on there, you can look at this and really be able to comprehend what you want to do. So it's like everything with modern technology now, it's right there.
This must have been difficult for you because, you're as old as my dad. No offense, Coach, but,
50?
Yeah, he's 50. Actually, he's 52. I thought you were 53, Coach. But, I mean, this is like a video game, and this is what the youngsters are all about today, Coach. This is not something I grew up. I was telling the guys last week, I had a ditto machine, mimeographs, and that stuff was blurry half the time. Trying to read that stuff, the fine print, are you kidding me? But this thing is exactly like a video game. You can see what every football player on that field is doing, from the linemen to the running backs to the wide receivers. Even the defense moves with you. And if you're an athlete, you could look at your position and see where you're supposed to be from start to finish. That is just fabulous, Coach.
It really is. And we all grew up with playbooks.
Right.
Everybody published a playbook. You give it to the players, they wouldn't read it at all, just carry it around.
Yeah.
Now
I agree.
I see that if I were back in coaching, this would be the way I would go in terms of every communication with the player. You can the player can read it at home. You can send him the information at home. The next week's scouting report you could have out on a Sunday night after a Saturday game. So it's really an advancement, a step forward, and I think it would be a lot of fun for somebody to delve into the game this way. And I think for the fan too, it gives you a real insight as to what actually is going on. We all pretend like we know a lot about this game, but not many do. So I think this would be an advantage for people.
Would have you liked to have had this back in the day? Because you can actually check and see what players are actually studying this and who didn't even open it up.
Oh, I definitely would. I personally am a visual learner. There's some people that learn, not many anymore, learn by books and the printed material. But visual, in most athletes, I think, are visual. The game is taught that way. And so I think that's the way to go. And I think I'm very excited about this.
Coach, can this help create the next Eric Dickerson?
No.
That's one thing you can't do. No bionics, huh?
No, that's right. It isn't quite at that level yet, but it does allow you to see what Eric ran. All the plays that we have on here that are going to be on this apps are the things we used for Eric and for Marcus Allen and Charlie White and such. So it is that basic offense, which is still very popular now. It's being run by a number of teams, and the coaching points, I think, are still really valid.
I have to imagine it's an easy sell to coaches who get this and see what it can do for their players.
And if I were coaching, as I say, I would have one from just about every running offense there was. So you would accumulate a library. Back when I was an assistant and even as a head coach, I bought every book that was ever. I still in my garage have 50 books about how Pop Warner ran the old T. I treasure those books. So I think this apps will be very popular.
Is this the kind of stuff you and John Madden were drawing up as kids when you were growing up together?
Absolutely. And John and I can remember John and I driving down. We lived in the Bay Area, driving down to L.A. and going to watch John McKay the year after he won the national championship at a clinic. Now we wouldn't have to drive all that way. We could just have a beer in Daly City where we lived and look at all this stuff.
Now, Coach, it's more than just, and by the way, Bob, his original playbook, him and Madden, it was originally just draw in the dirt, you know.
Of course, that's how we all learned,
They take a picture of it, you know, with a Polaroid. Well, they didn't have Polaroids back then. It was probably one of those big, huge, you know, 1.75-inch negative type cameras. You know, Coach, this app is more than just that. You know, you also give coaches tips about how to prepare for a game plan and different things like that are important to young coaches.
Well, I think so. So much of coaching is what kind of culture you create, and you sometimes you go into things. It's like being a parent. You go into being a parent and don't know what you're doing, you know. And I think young coaches, particularly at the youth level, need to have a thought process of how to deal with issues. There are so many issues now that become major social problems as soon as somebody, you know, puts it on the internet. You've got a major problem. So I think thinking through all of these things and hearing about them, and then formulating your own sense of how you build a culture, how you motivate players, and how you teach. Those are the things that are really, really important in coaching. You must think of the intangibles. We all want to draw X's and O's, but we also need that part of the game.
This is very important because, Coach, you're an old school guy. I mean, you guys worked really hard back in the day. You know, you didn't have the technology, you didn't have the working out techniques. You know, physiology was different, the way you guys worked out with the kinesiology and all that stuff. So times have really changed, and it's good that somebody like yourself and Tom Flores have stepped forward and helped with this, because basically, let's face it, you guys are the guys that pretty much blaze the trail. And a lot of these young guys, you know, everybody's into quick, we want it now, self-gratification. But truth be told, it took a long time for you to refine your work.
Oh, absolutely. You know, anybody who's great at anything must invest a huge amount of time. You know, there's a book out about 10,000 hours to become a expert in anything. And so when you look over a period of time, how ideas develop and how teaching skills, you look at John Wooden, who's probably the greatest coach of all time. 16 years before he won a championship.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
You don't think of that. So, and those things take time, and the idea of developing a culture that you present to your team is really important.
All right, Coach. One quick question before we got to get out of here is I wanted to ask you, pro or college, what was more satisfying for John Robinson in coaching?
You know, some of both. College, everything surrounding the game was great. I think when you recruit a kid, you recruit him for an extended period of time, and you must be involved in his life personally. I would go into homes and say, I will guarantee that your son graduates from college. And so a lot of the players that played for me at USC are still friends of mine, and I was involved in their life. In the pro game, it's a little more businesslike.
Very good. Bob, anything in closing?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, Coach, when the LA Rams do finally come home, you're going to be our first phone call here on the franchise, because we're going to celebrate the return of the Los Angeles Rams back home where they belong.
You're lucky John Conte's in the restroom right now in the squatty potty, man, because you know, he'd be ripping you right now, Bob. How dare you insult Coach Robinson right here?
They're coming home. They're coming home.
You're getting Coach's hopes up, and he knows better. That's just it. Coach knows better.
Well, let's don't forget the Trojans. They're still the number one.
That's right. That's my Super Bowl champ right there, baby, every year. Hey, Coach, I'd like to thank you for your time today, man. I wish you guys great success. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. You guys are going to revolutionize the way athletes approach their game plans.
Well, we're going to help.
Don't forget, teamplaybooks.com.
That's right. I'd like to thank Coach Robinson for coming in. Stay tuned when we come back. Unfortunately, John Conte's going to be back with us.
We'll have the NFL report.
You're listening to The Franchise on AM830 KLAA. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you.